And this is A&B Convo's Wrestling Edition.
So he also started exposing the sex scandals that were not just women. And we had the ring boy scandal with Mel Phillips, the ring boss, Kerry Garvin, and Pat Patterson. And I am so disgusted by Vince with this Pat Patterson thing. He wants to maintain Pat's innocence to this day because of his friendship. And the way that he gaslights us with this, oh, poor me. We were just being attacked from every angle. And I mean, I get it, but it's just a family business. We're just trying to do our thing. And Phil didn't care about the people he was hurting with these articles. You didn't care about these ring boys that were underage, that were being sexually assaulted and given drugs and alcohol under your business. And then you bring Pat Patterson back, trying to convince everybody that he's innocent. But almost every wrestler in the business, the old school wrestlers, will tell you he absolutely was that. And I mean, I've sent you guys interviews with these people and people who were fired because they wouldn't sleep with him or do whatever with him. And then the ones who were like Ric Flair, who were like, hey, just you do what you need to do if you want this contract. Makes me wonder, so did Ric Flair do what he needed to do? Like, are the other ones who are being quiet because they conceded and don't want anybody to know what they did to get there where they were?
Pat's an interesting case to me because on the one hand, I wasn't there, so I don't know precisely everything that happened, but I did think it was an interesting alibi, so to speak, to point out that he was, that Pat was I don't know about the first, but definitely probably the most prominent openly gay backstage person in wrestling. And that standing in the 80s would have definitely invited a lot of scrutiny. That being said, there is a whole lot of because they said the same thing about I'm thinking about Tony Atlas in particular, going to the steroid trial thing. Like, they said a lot of things about that too. They're like, well, no, Vince never told us, but you knew, you'd have to be stupid not to know that was going to help you. Mm-hmm. And so I think about the allegations specifically against Pat to be because he was Vince's right-hand man for decades. And and again, it's the complicated thing of, you have people who may or may not have done some despicable things and also contributed very heavily to the thing that you love. Right. We don't have the Royal Rumble without Pat Patterson. That was his idea. Mm-hmm. The whole booking of the match is his idea. And that's my favorite match WWE does. Which I know, it's just an entertainment thing, and we're talking about people's lives, so it's it's a different thing. But it makes me curious to know how much of that was explicit and how much of that was assumed. As well, because Vince never told them to take steroids, but obviously they see who's getting pushed, and things are known. And so I think it also, though, but on the other hand, the counterbalance to that too is what we've always said about Vince's business, and his business being number one. And those other two guys, totally expendable. I know a lot about WWF and its history. Can't remember anything that those other two guys contributed that has stood the test of time. But I can tell you many things that Pat Patterson has contributed that stood the test of time. He booked the Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels Iron Man match. And there's just a couple of things just off the top of my head. So I know that Vince would do what he needed to do to keep him around if it meant losing him for a little while to bring him back later, and lumping him in with somebody and maybe even using his sexuality as an excuse to paint him in a more favorable light. But totally agree with you, Becky, though. I honestly, it turned all the way around to being funny to me every time I heard Vince try to paint himself as the underdog in any situation. I'm like, dog, you have been the aggressor from day one, and won't somebody think of the family-run businesses?
Well, see, this is the issue that I have with this. Okay, so you have somebody in a position of power, and we've seen this recently now we've called it the Give Divas a Chance situation, and now you had the Me Too era where a lot of this other stuff was starting to come out, and you're seeing people in positions of power, people that really have far reaches into the entertainment industry, and seeing exactly what they would do to manipulate and get what they want to satisfy whatever it is that they wanted to have done. And people were just props. People were just playthings. People were just, you know what, I'm going to get what I need out of you, and you're not going to do anything about it. Why? Because like Tony Atlas said, who are you going to complain to?
Right.
Who are you going to talk to about this? And what people seem to forget, and there's a certain thing with certain people in certain generations now that look back on wrestling in, say, the Attitude Era and, say, the Golden Era, as Hacksaw Jim Duggan likes to say, that there is context. You know, like we read the Bible and people will take something out of context if we don't understand who the writer was authoring this to, what the audience was, what the situation was at the time. There's a lot of context that has to go into this. So you have to look at the context of what's going on and what we're seeing on the screen. But outside of that, to utilize your network of people, you keep these people close to you because they're just as depraved as you are. You scratch my back, I scratch your back. You protect me, I protect you. It's like a mob thing. Like I said this before, this didn't happen. You don't rat, I don't rat, and this is how it is. And we're going to get people drugged up. Now, what does that mean? It could be an actual drug, like here, you have some bottle of water. Or it can be, you know what? I'm going to give you the match that you want. I'm going to give you money in your pocket. I'm going to take care of your family. But this is what you're going to do for me. And it is a damn shame that you had these ring boys coming in here just wanting to get work, trying to work for a company as big as WWE and having to worry about your boss coming in here, closing the door behind you. Okay, you knew what this was.
Yeah.
That is reprehensible to me. But this is something that has been prevalent for decades and decades and decades, not just in WWE.
Right, all entertainment,
Well,
in all industries.
And it's an old axiom too among the boys too. Like people, you know, Randy Savage always had Miss Elizabeth with him, and they were married for a time, and there was always a little bit of, you know, talk about Randy's paranoia and maybe his treatment of Elizabeth, and I'm not really getting into that, but I'm gonna use that to his credit. In a certain way, is one of the prevailing sentiments I've heard from wrestlers for years is, no, don't bring your wife into the locker room.
Yeah.
Don't bring her around the boys. Specifically say don't bring her around the boys. Like, and so there's definitely a sense. And again, it also goes to context too. Like, not saying what's okay and not okay, but what was normalized
Yes.
behavior in that time. Because, you know, Tony Atlas said some things about Pat Patterson too that took me off guard. Because again, the man is so transparent, maybe too transparent, to where I'm like, that's awful. And I'm like, but then again, it's a men's locker room in the 80s. Like, could that have happened in NFL life?